All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Going to be touching on the top prop bets for Sunday Night Football on both Underdog and PrizePicks. But first, I want to start out with some other good bets that we have across some other sports. So real quickly, I do like the Chris Middleton props that we are getting today. If we're going to bet points, rebounds, and assists though here, guys, like the day is kind of telling us to, yes, PrizePicks and Underdog has bumped it to 23.5, but I want to point out that the fantasy score then I also think is a good one. I feel like that's going to be a little bit safer today. For Underdog, we can go by just EV only, and so we got some decent ones here. Kind of North Carolina, I believe, is projected not to do all too well. Those are the only good EV bets that we have, and that's going to be Monday night. I do want to call it an update that I made as well. So we got the EV only tab. That's just going to be pulling in the prop bets that are going to be the exact same, the average sportsbook line and the PrizePicks line is going to be the exact same. You guys can then figure out whether or not you like a prop bet. These first two have a very good chance of being a push, but with the projection data also favoring the over, I'm okay with running those out. Troy Terry's another good EV bet, but if you guys want to see the full sample, the edge only, it's a little bit different. Edge only takes in kind of every single prop bet that is not a goblin or demon, which is a new element that we have, and puts them into this page. So you guys can scroll through and kind of see where you might or might not agree with a certain prop bet that we are getting. Okay, that's a good way of going about doing it. If you just want to sort by like fantasy score, that is something you can do as well. So obviously we'll get into the night game here, but I kind of just want to show you guys those updates, and if you guys like any of these prop bets, by all means go ahead and hammer those home. So let's go ahead and get into it. We have the Sunday night game, which is going to be the Ravens versus the Jaguars. Definitely an interesting game. I'm really curious as to how Trevor Lawrence plays, because obviously last week did not play out too well. It's because he had an injury, but he was kind of playing well the previous week. Definitely still a mixed bag, I would say, for him, but I'm very interested to see how he does play. Looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars, they are a little bit banged up. We know that. Christian Kirk is on the IR. Got to figure out what they're going to do receiver wise. Seems like it could be Zay Jones or Parker Washington, but mostly Evan Ingram might be the one that benefits the most. I do want to kind of mention that Trevor Lawrence was a little bit vocal about Evan Ingram not scoring a touchdown, and then 2 straight games he scores a touchdown. Something to monitor there. Looking at the Ravens, they are kind of good to go. I mean, Mark Andrews is out. We know that, but definitely interesting in terms of snap counts for both these teams, given their injuries. So I want to start out with. So looking at Jacksonville, we did see Parker Washington come in and play 60% of the snaps. Again, like he was someone that I hyped up during the preseason. I thought he would, potentially be a very good preseason NFL DFS candidate for us. And he actually kind of was, but all in all, he didn't play as much as I would have liked. And then we do see Zay Jones, 92 and 83% of the snaps. That's huge, but really, I think we're going to see Evan Ingram continue to see an increase in his snaps. To me, he's the biggest beneficiary to the Christian Kirk news because, well, he operates a little bit more out of the middle, and instead of some of those targets going to Kirk, I think they're just going to go to Evan Ingram. And I'm serious. Like, I don't think it's any surprise that he's had 12 and 9 targets. Now, he has been a super consistent fantasy tight end, but at the same time, I really don't think what he has done lately has been too shocking. Now, obviously, a lot of his production is really going to depend on how healthy Trevor Lawrence is. I don't think their game plan last week would have been to, let's have Trevor Lawrence, who's injured, play or throw the ball 50 times. That is not something they wanted to do, but with Travis Etienne kind of struggling lately, they were kind of forced into that. Now, Cleveland is a slightly better defense than Baltimore. That could honestly change this week depending on if they let the Bears put up a touchdown in OT here. I think it's OT. I'm doing this game at the end of the Sunday games here. We'll see. But all in all, I still think Evan Ingram's going to get peppered with targets. So really the first prop bet that I want to see when we get into the Underdog NFL tab is going to be whether or not we have some good Evan Ingram props. Oh, and guys, I do want to start out with kind of showing you guys another update I made. So obviously PrizePicks introduced the weird goblins and demon stuff. For the most part, that is not going to be worthwhile. I think the only time I'm really going to use those is when there's a discounted square that I really like or demon that I think we're getting edge on. I'll show you guys that real quick. Like a goblin, let's say, any of these that are over 80% chance and we're still doubling up when we put that into the PrizePicks payout structure, I'd be fine using. Okay, I think that's a decent way to go about doing it. But I also want to show you guys the demon way as well. Basically, if you flip this around and say, all right, Kyler Murray has a 54% chance for the under to hit. That's what that is telling us. Okay, so what that's also telling us is that there's a slight edge here. That's about a 46% chance that the over could hit, and then go down and kind of use that. Now, one that I called out on Saturday when I made this updates, I believe it was Nick Mullins potentially. Yeah, Nick Mullins demon. That was about a 54% chance, so 46% chance, I should say, for the over to hit. And then because of the payout we had, I thought it was fine. But all in all, what we're going to be using most of the time, because those payouts are trash, guys, really should not be using those at all. The only time The only other time I see myself using those is when it's early in the morning and there's a prop bet that I absolutely love that I'm trying to get to. Okay, so let's go ahead and start out with the Jaguars. And so yeah, we're getting some Dearnhurst Johnson ones. I don't know about that, but yeah, Evan Ingram at 5.5 receptions. That is easily my favorite one for the reasons already laid out to you guys. That should be one that in theory hits without a sweat. I mean, really should, unless Baltimore is really able to establish the run and kill the clock, which I don't think they will. Evan Ingram for over 5.5 receptions should be a very, I don't want to say easy one to hit, but it should be. The only caution is that the projection data doesn't like it too much. All in all, that's just there for us to gauge whether or not we can agree with a prop bet. Also want to look at the Dearnhurst Johnson rush attempts. So we did notice that he has been getting some more snaps because, well, Travis Etienne has not been playing too well. The concern that I've had with Etienne as like a fantasy asset in season long is that the Jaguars didn't want to trust him in that kind of role. So why would we trust him in that role, the workhorse role? And so we can see rush attempts wise, 11.5 yards is really not too much. Might be tight, but we can see for the most part, as long as those opportunities are still there for him, I think he does have a good chance of getting that over. So all in all, I would be okay with that one. They have been trying to work him in on the field. I just don't know exactly if I love that. Now, I do want to call out these two here. Travis Etienne is really the only other one that I think we have a big edge on. I would almost say that those two correlate, like Dearnhurst Johnson over rush yards, and then also Etienne not scoring a touchdown is pretty much what this is telling us. So if he doesn't score a touchdown like he has the last 2 weeks, he doesn't really have good games. And so a little bit of touchdown dependent obviously is going up against a difficult matchup with Baltimore. But granted, he did that against Cleveland and Cincinnati as well. So all in all, this bet would be a bet on him not scoring a touchdown. And again, if you're doing that, you might as well do the Dearnhurst Johnson one as well. From there, I don't feel the need to really chase anyone. Zay Jones, I would say he has a good chance to have a good game. I mean, those targets were crazy, 14 and 8. You know, if you're going to give him that many targets, 8 targets, I do think he has a good chance to get over, 39.5 receiving yards. That's not a terrible one. I'd be fine using that. The issue I have there, it only has a 51.7% chance to hit. So a little bit thin there. Let's go on and get into the other team in this game, the Baltimore Ravens. So again, I do want to start out with looking at the snaps here for the Ravens. And with the Ravens, Isaiah Likely has really stepped up right into that Mark Andrews role, doing pretty well. And he's a different receiver, but all in all, they're getting some very good production out of him. And the offense kind of needs to flow through a tight end plane, okay? When they don't, Lamar just struggles. Now, Lamar's look good, guys. To me, MVP is really Dak by kind of a big margin right now, then Lamar, and then still a big drop off. You could toss in Brock Purdy in there, I guess. But really, my point of that is Lamar has played pretty well. It's nice to see that his weapons are kind of stepping up lately as well. Looking at Zay Flowers, basically not leaving the field right now. He should be someone that we can play with ease, with some comfortability there as well, knowing that he's going to be on the field that much. Then it gets difficult, guys. Nelson Aguilar playing 60% of the snaps. He really, in a weird way, he kind of has been their most impressive receiver, and I kind of hesitate to phrase it that way, but like in terms of what you were expecting out of it, I don't know if that's true, because like Aguilar has proven he's a pretty good NFL receiver. He just makes eye-popping, terrible mistakes, really at terrible times as well. That's always been his flaw. But if he is someone we can bet on playing, let's say 50% of the snaps, I actually think we have some good props for him. OBJ, it's tough to really trust OBJ, honestly, because up until last week, he hadn't gotten over 50% of the snaps in over a month. And I still don't know if we can trust that. A lot of people are probably going to be hyped to play him, and he has been on passing down situations a lot. It's kind of a tell, is like when he's on the field, they're passing it. And then Rashad Bateman as well. He shouldn't be seeing the field. He really shouldn't. But that's the issue with the Ravens right now, is that they go so deep, for lack of a better term, that it's tough to really know what we should do. Now, OBJ, that was a high-scoring game. We know that. I'm not expecting that tonight. If it is, obviously you can game stack that way. But I think that's why we saw him play that much, is because while the Rams played a good game, they need to throw the football a little bit more, so they got OBJ on the field a little bit more. My concern is that, like Nelson Aguilar, who I mentioned I think I might like tonight, that's part of the reason why he was on the field. Now, his receptions prop, what I saw earlier, was at 1.5. Again, if you're betting on this game being a little bit higher scoring, Nelson Aguilar has a great chance to get over 1.5 receptions. And then Zay Flowers, I do think, is good as well. The biggest question mark that we have on this game, don't get me wrong, a lot of his production came on the last drive of that game. Kind of lucky in that sense. Played well, don't get me wrong. They have been really trying to get the ball to him, and obviously not leaving the field. That's awesome. But we're like the 20 or so fantasy points that I had, a little bit, I don't want to say fluky, but lucky, if you will. That's the same thing. I don't know why I phrased it that way. I'm just saying we shouldn't be expecting that again. And when we pull up the props that we are getting for them, really the one that we're getting a massive edge on, I would say, is the Nelson Aguilar prop. PrizePicks has it as a 2-yard difference right now. And so if we are thinking this game could be a little bit higher scoring, I would say he has a great chance to get over. That receiving yards prop, to me, that's one of the better ones that we are getting. He has gotten that over in 3 straight games. Again, it's as long as they're not up early in this game, which they could. I mean, there's weird stuff that happens every primetime game. Then I do like that over. Now, Keaton Mitchell is also an interesting one as well. Keaton Mitchell actually played less snaps than Justice Hill. And that's just the theme with the Ravens. We cannot trust the snaps at all. But all in all, he is someone that has been getting targets. We like to see that. We can see the yards line at 10.5. That's the highest across the industry. So if you wanted to bet the over receiving yards there, you'd want to do it on something like Underdog. All in all, to me, with Keaton Mitchell, that one probably just feels like a stay away. There's no reason to force that, okay? I like the talent. I think everyone likes the talent. Everyone's been hyping up Devon Achane. He's kind of the exact same back. So all in all, maybe there's something there. I mentioned Nelson Aguilar, 1.5 receptions. I think we're better off doing. I think that's a much better prop bet. And then from there, I don't really see a big edge in any of the other Baltimore Ravens props that we have. Now, when I sort it by team, that's just pulling in the offensive players. So I want to sort it by time real quick to see if we're getting any tackles and assist props in there as well. And not really. I mean, Devin Lloyd for under 9. That's about it. Brendan McManus for over 5.5 kicking points. Those are okay, but all in all, not a big edge there. And then real quickly, we'll just take a peek. Sorry about that last screen. I will just take a peek at the prop bets that we are getting for Underdog right now. We can see Puka Nacua. That one's going live right now. We shouldn't worry about that. Would have been a good over bet. Let's just sort it by time. Lamar Jackson under fantasy score. We're seeing a big kind of prop line difference right there. All in all, I'm kind of okay with that. Same thing with Trevor Lawrence here, guys. Under fantasy score for him, those are 2 big discrepancies that we are seeing. And then you could attach that with Evan Ingram for over his receptions. That's a pretty big edge there. And all in all, if you wanted to like run it back on PrizePicks, you could bet the over there. 1 point difference from Underdog to PrizePicks for a quarterback fantasy score prop is a big difference because we're not adjusting the formula too much in terms of fantasy scoring for like other positions where Underdog's half-point PPR and PrizePicks is full-point PPR. There's a little bit of a bigger adjustment, which goes into something like Calvin Ridley here. But dang, that's a big difference. And so, guys, if I really had to give out a bet slip for this slip, this would be what it is. I think Nelson Aguilar has a good chance to play some snaps. All in all, I'm just hoping that this game is a little bit higher scoring. Thus, Nelson Aguilar is on the field a little bit more. I would say that does correlate, and I say these two do correlate as well. I really do expect Evan Ingram to be involved. That's one of the better EV bets that we are currently getting. Evan Ingram for over 5.5 reception. Now, because I don't love those other prop bets too much, I would say this is a pretty favorable one on the night tonight, just a small 2-slip bet. Chris Middleton should get some, pretty decent minutes. He has been a point per minute producer. Not a terrible matchup against Houston. Again, Evan Ingram, I think he's going to be peppered with targets. That should be kind of a nice. And then here's what my Underdog slip would be currently. Again, just playing the odds difference that we are getting. The data favored the less than fantasy score for Trevor Lawrence and also Lamar Jackson. And then again, still running out the Evan Ingram over receptions. I will say, guys, I don't hate the idea of betting these both for higher on PrizePicks because there is a pretty decent discrepancy, especially for Trevor Lawrence. So that is a route that you could go as well. Now, that's going to be all for today's video. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to give a like and subscribe. If you guys want access to the 9to5sports.com PrizePicks and Underdog cheat sheet is available for $10 a month. As you guys saw in this video, I'm always trying to add in something to make your betting life easier. Again, it's only $10 a month as well. So thank you guys for watching. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.